Okay, it's July 4th, and I wish everyone a happy July 4th. It's a typical South Jersey day here. 90 degrees, 90% humidity, but it's a holiday. I last spoke with many of you New Year's Day, and I thought it would be nice to wish you all a wonderful summer greeting. You know, I do have a Facebook page somewhere, but I think the last time I made an entry was sometime right after the Cuban Missile Crisis, so I'm not real good with that. But, by the time you add up all the time most people spend on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, hey, I might as well just make a YouTube video and accomplish much the same. So here's what I've been up to. It's been 6 months. This morning I pushed a tree out of the way in our back area here. It fell on a path we have, and I pushed it to the side. We're surrounded by like 500 acres of farmland, wetlands, some hunting land. What are the chances? What are the chances of a tree just falling right where we didn't want it? So then after the tree this morning, I went into the garage. We have some extra air conditioners, and I wanted to just give them to Mindy's brother. Would you believe I found 4 air conditioners in our garage? You never can have enough air conditioning. That's all I got to say. And then when I was pushing the air conditioners out of the way, what did I stumble across but 24 old golf clubs I didn't even know were there. I don't even know where they came from. And they were behind the air conditioners. And so, that reminded me that my dad loved to call golf irons by their real name. I mean, they really have proper names. Do you know that? Golf clubs have proper names. We got the Mashie and the Spoon, the Jigger, and of course my favorite is the Niblick. Shiloh, will you get my Niblick out of the bag, please? So anyhow, talking about golf, I was golfing Monday up at our house in the Poconos, and out of nowhere, I was putting on a green, and out of nowhere came a black bear, just kind of jogging across the fairway. Having worked on dairy cows, I estimate that this bear was weighed at least 700 pounds. I was the only one that saw this bear, by the way. No one else was anywhere near me. I was golfing alone, and it was crazy, absolutely crazy. All I can say is that when the bear passed by, he recommended that I bend my legs more while putting. So a good tip. So let's see. In May, I attended my 50th prep school reunion. 50 years. I went to Phillips Exeter in New Hampshire. And out of 250 classmates, about 80 some odd classmates made it. So 85 even. And we all gave a bunch of TED Talks to kind of pass the time during the weekend. And here's an interesting thing. One of my classmates is into robotic surgery, human robotic surgery. And he's actually perfected some robotic surgical procedures and equipment, so that you can actually he claims you can do surgery like in one room and the patient's in the other. You're like touching the equipment, the buttons, whatever, but that's performing the surgery. And, he said this would come in very useful, for example, like a space mission. And his theory was that, I forget what statistic it is, but a large number of the population, especially the male population, will need an appendectomy. So if they put one of these robotic surgical suites on, our mission to Mars or whatever, you got your problem solved for when someone needs an appendectomy. Now, I thought about this overnight, that when I was up there, My theory is let's take everyone's appendix out while they're still in Houston, and then we can avoid the whole thing. Not to mention the millions of dollars he's working on here with this project. But anyhow, just a thought. On a totally different tangent, I switched at work. I switched from Verizon. Have you heard of Verizon, a big phone company? I switched to what we call Comcast. I just got so annoyed at Verizon for one reason or another. And do you know, get a load of this, do you know they said it was, I was subject to an early termination fee for terminating our phone service, $500. And I pursued this and said, the last time I signed a contract with you folks is when I opened my office 19 years ago. And they said, well, if you look on page 6 of your bill in February, it says, unless we hear from you, we're renewing your contract every 2 years. There's something not right about this. So $500 I am due to pay them for terminating my phone service. And then just to grind it in a little more, get a load of this, they sent me another bill for $300, and that was because the internet was part of the package in my office, and that's $300 to terminate early. Even though the bill I got every month for 19 years just was one bill. I mean, it had, it was like a small business account. So, what do you think of that? That's not right, is it? That's not right. So anyhow, so today's July 4th, and I hear that our president wants to parade tanks through Washington, D.C. Now, how many of you have ever driven in Washington? Living close enough, I have driven through Washington any number of times. And I have to tell you, between the rotaries and the buses and the bicycles and the crazy diagonal streets that come in out of nowhere, and the tourists, now you want me to pass an M1 Abrams tank. It just doesn't make any sense. And this is all from a man who uses the word unagreed. Unagreed. Okay. So let me rant a little about the spoken word, as long as I just touched on it. My last conversation with you, I mentioned how situation seems to be a word that we just cannot get away from. Everything is situation, situation, situation. And it's getting worse. So, I dare you to count the number of times a day you hear this word. Now, you got to concentrate on this and report back to me. But today, I want to talk to you about the number of times I hear ality, A-L-I-T-Y, added to a perfectly good noun. Examples are intersection becomes intersectionality. Suicide becomes suicidality. Navigation becomes navigationality. A little strange, isn't it? We got a perfectly good noun. So anyhow, let's carry this over to veterinary medicine. Maybe we should make some changes here. I'm thinking vaccination should be vaccinationality. Fecal. How about fecal? Fecality. Would you kindly bring in a fecality on your next visit? We have biopsy. I don't think I've done a biopsy on you, but it is now a biopsyality. And of course, one thing you do have is diarrheality. So, what's up with that? Let me just tell you about what I'm up to in terms of an idea I had a number of months ago. I am starting a nonprofit. It's, some of you may have heard about my idea a while ago, but basically the nonprofit is going to take the smaller veterinary practices that owners, baby boomers presumably, are looking to sell. It's the end of their career, or for health reasons, family reasons, whatever, they want to sell their practice, but you're not up in the millions that the corporations are interested in these days. So you have those practices, large animal, small animal, whatever. And then you have your younger veterinary community who really still wants to own practices. I mean, I think I think the graduates these days, it is a dream to own a practice. But we have the student debt. Do I really want to take on another bank loan? Can I even get a bank loan with the amount, hundreds of thousands I owe? Plus, I'd like to buy a car someday, or maybe even a television. So, big problem. And how do you hook these two together, and how do you encourage the younger veterinary community to still live that dream? So the nonprofit, it's not online yet, but when it does, you can look it up. Private loan between the seller and the buyer. No bank. And I draw up the contract. I have pre-made contracts for different numbers of years to pay it off. The interest rate is probably going to be prime rate with no points added. So it'll be a lower rate than a bank, probably agreeable to both parties. No commission if the practice is sold for the seller. So the seller saves thousands of dollars if that comes to fruition. And the best part is it's done online. The website that's being put together as we speak, it's going to handle everything online. There will be what's called a membership fee, but it's going to be a one-time fee. Your practice stays up there forever. Very inexpensive. So there's no money to be made here. It's strictly a nonprofit. Hopefully I can travel around and talk about it at conferences, things like that. Hey, maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I am nuts. However, let me say this. A couple weeks ago, I was in my local synagogue, and the Torah portion, I know you're all familiar with this. The Israelites have left Egypt. They're approaching the Promised Land. Now listen to this, listen. The Israelites are approaching the Promised Land, and they send out a scout from each tribe, the 12 tribes. And so each tribe sends out a scout. Moses gives them instructions. Basically, come back and report to me what you found out there. What is Israel like? What are we going to be up against? We got to fight every tribe in Israel to regain the land, to get the land for us. So report back. So the scouts, they all take off. Eventually, they all come back. 10 of the 12 scouts are very dismayed. They give reports of giants in the land of Israel, just giant behemoths that are going to chew us up and spit us out, and we better turn back. We better turn back. This is not going to work. Two of the scouts, however, have a different story. Okay, now's when I'm going to ask you, what are the names of the 2 scouts that brought back better reports? Beep, time's up. Joshua and Caleb. How many kids are named Caleb these days? Actually, I think there's a lot of, maybe some dogs. Are there any beagles named Caleb? Probably. So anyhow, Joshua and Caleb, they say it's worth a shot. It's not that bad. Let's give it a shot. Well, I don't have to tell you, God was not happy with this. And as a result, the Jews wandered the desert for 40 years till there was a new generation that was not so fearful and was ready to take on the challenge of going into the land of Israel. So, getting back to my nonprofit, I know I took a little side road here. The fact of the matter is, if I didn't push ahead with this, I just don't think I would be happy. If something is this important to someone, you got to have faith. You got to push ahead and be positive. I mean, for me, not going ahead with this idea, this idealism, it would be more demoralizing than any failure I might experience going ahead with the project. So, I will keep you posted. I think one of us sees a turkey out there. I'll keep you posted, and I'll see some of you in Washington. Enjoy your summer. Oh, excuse me. Enjoy your summerality. And